invested in their own education. So that's where this idea of Chispa. So if you want to, let's all say the word together. Chispa. Yeah, you don't want to be one of those gringos that says Chispa. It looks really funny, right? Sounds really funny. So Chispa. Y'all are really quiet for lunchtime, guys. Chispa, can we get walking around? There we go. Chispa, there we go. Have a little chispa this morning. All right, so Chispa Project now is a 501c3 nonprofit with a 3-part mission. And our mission is to create school libraries in Honduras. And so that has 3 parts. One is simply books, right? Sparking a culture of reading, not just to pass your tests in school, but through student access to books. We also train to support educators to engage more creatively. And we also work with volunteers, both international and in our local community. So about 80% of our volunteers are Honduran, wanting to get involved and help their country with education. So just in case, Honduras is in Central America. About 80% of the US cocaine comes through Honduras. So a lot of problems passing through our country that come from South America through Central America. As you can see, it's kind of on that corner. It also is where a lot of your Nike factories are, your Gap factories. Some of our biggest exports are going to be bananas and coffee. So some really delicious coffee regions. And a lot of our kids actually pick coffee on their summers off. So the summer season runs from November to February. Make sure that kids who are part of their family's farming can pick coffee. So why books? The most successful way to improve the reading achievement of low-income children is to increase access. Simply giving a kid a book is going to help them be better readers. In our rural schools, average school time in school is 4.5 years. Really low. But we know that reading is a base for all other school subjects. So when reading becomes easier, so does school, and this helps in student retention. When students aren't as frustrated in school, they're less likely to drop out. If they can read easier, they're getting better grades. Their parents can see that there's a reason to keep them in school. We know even like those math word problems requires reading. There's an average of 1 teacher for every 40 students. So when I was first teaching in Honduras as a volunteer, I had a classroom, multi-grade classroom, 1 teacher, kind of think back 100 years ago here. And I thought, oh, I don't feel like my university really prepared me for this. What do I do with all these children? And so you'll see a lot of the teachers, what they do is they'll say, okay, here you go, 1st grade, copy these pages. Okay, 2nd grade, copy these pages. Okay, 3rd grade. Okay, 1st grade, let me check to see if you copied. And so in my first classroom, I had several 2nd graders who had beautiful handwriting and didn't know what they had written. So when you have 1 teacher with so many students, materials like books can help keep students engaged with learning. So once I started bringing books into the classroom, my kids would finish their assignments and say, can I read now? And I would say, yes, because I don't know what else to do with you right now because I'm teaching 3rd grade, right? 50% of Honduran students are below satisfactory reading level. So it's not that kids can't read. There's a high rate of literacy. 85%, I believe, in the country, but they don't read well. And we even see this with our teachers. So storybooks in themselves are an incentive to practice reading. As you can see, this was my little troublemaker in my class, Moses, who just really wanted to be involved in everything, even if it was under a table or outside the classroom. But storybooks helped get him involved to want to do something active and helped incentivize him to read. This is him in 1st grade, and now he is in middle school. So our library programs are really unique in how they involve the greater school community. First of all, our library programs are not just a drop-off program. We don't just go in, donate books, peace. We work with the school for about 1.5 years, implementing, training, and following up to make sure that the library is implemented, as well as the community is taking responsibility and following up in their programs. So each of our schools, our 65 schools, have their own library committee made out of teachers, parents, and students. They are responsible for making the mission and policies, how they want to make their library, but like the layout of the furniture, where they want to put it. Is it going to be in an old corn storage room? Is it going to be a little part in each classroom? We use the space that's available. They also are in charge of talking to the greater school community, and they fundraise. About 5% of each of our projects is fundraised by the local community. And we've discovered that this helps create greater responsibility. I don't know what happened. Greater responsibility, ownership of the project, and involvement. So we've discovered at the very beginning of all this, at first, we would come into a school with this idea, how to build a school library, and I would say, what do you guys think? And they'd just be like, yes, Brenda, whatever you say, you're coming with the money, right? Because they didn't want to bend, they just wanted to accept what was given. But now, even with this symbolic portion of fundraising, teachers and students and parents feel like they can speak up and be like, not Brenda, that's not going to work here. And then we can discuss on a more even playing ground what actually works for their school, because our program is very flexible to fit the needs of the community. So the library installation is just a really cool day of painting. So the students and parents all show up, volunteers, international volunteers from Edwardsville show up, whoever wants to come. They put together the bookshelves that we bring in. We set up everything from the bookshelves, the inventorying the books, the painting. You can see we decorate the library. We want to make it an attractive place. And it's just a really neat day or 2 days, depending on the size of the school. And you can see kind of some of the different libraries we've set up in classroom spaces that are already available. One of our more recent ones. This used to be an old corn storage. The other part of our programs is those workshops. So making sure that each of these groups in the community is trained on how to best utilize their books. And this is one of my favorite parts of the job. Nope. I don't know why this isn't working. Nope, I got nothing. This is one of my favorite parts of the job because, as you can imagine, for the teacher workshop, professional development, how do you all show up for professional development? Real excited? Yeah, exactly. That's how these teachers show up too. But at the beginning of our several-day workshop, teachers are like, what are you going to show us? We already know all we need to know, but our workshops are very interactive. It's a day where the teachers just get really involved. We not only teach activities that they can do, but they have to do the activities. And so it's a real fun day that fun couple of days where everyone gets to let loose and enjoy. So we teach teachers how to use books. It's everything from here's how to hold open a book and show a picture, because these books are the first books that they've had in their school, first children's books. So you've got your textbooks. How many people really enjoy reading textbooks? You love learning to read from textbooks? Okay, well this guy, yeah. We'll talk, yeah, under the desk, I got you. But for a lot of these students, learning how to read without a storybook is boring and it doesn't work very well. And so a lot of our teachers also aren't great readers. They have not grown up with storybooks. They don't know how to say, who is this character? Or this is the author. Or know that the second person listed on the book is the illustrator. So some very basic things that we'll teach, as well as how to engage their kids more creatively instead of copy the storybook. And so we'll also do a training with the parents and families of what they can do with their kids at home, even if they can't read. We'll be working with the library committee throughout the year and a half. And we'll do one for the students of here's how to turn pages. Don't eat and read. Turn the pages from the corner. So lots of fun stuff. Finally, the inauguration. Yes, all right. This is just a really fun day. Let's pretend that's not me jumping up and down. Inauguration is just a day where the kids get to finally see their library for the first time. They get to enjoy their books. The teachers are getting to implement some of the activities they just learned, but we're there alongside of them, making sure they don't have any questions or how to best do their activity. It's also, so there's activity stations that the kids will rotate through, 30-minute activities that the kids get to see different kinds of books. So a lot of times, because kids have never had a children's book before, they don't know what a children's book is. So we have a wordless book, we have a science book, we have nonfiction, we have the activities where they get to make their own snowflake. They get to learn the rules of the library. Make some puppets with 3 really goats from. There is always soccer involved somehow. So as you can see, this library is just a very basic space. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to be enjoyable. Our books are supposed to call to the kids' attention. You might see some there you recognize, Peppa the Pig, or Harry the dirty dog, I think it is in English. You see Lucia here giving the rules of the library. This is a book that shows them how to draw. So it's not just that books have to be textbooks. There's ways that everyone can get involved. And so each of our book collections has at least 500 different titles to make sure you're getting the age range and the interest range of all the kids. So to date, as Brent mentioned, we've donated over 35,000 books to 65 different schools and organizations, and we'd like to keep doing that. So this past year and a half has been a little wild. Our programs have looked a little differently as we've helped send books home with kids, making sure kids get homework packets. But we're gearing up next year to install another 10 libraries. So a lot of our schools are on a waiting list currently. And we've had a waiting list now for over 2 years. So we know that books change the story for a lot of these kids. It changes our story, my coworkers that work in Honduras, that work in all these schools, and it's changed my story, the course of my life, working in Honduras for the last 7 years now. And we love working with Rotaries. So I first got involved with different Rotary clubs because a Rotary club in Honduras approached me for help. And so since then, together with different Rotary clubs in Honduras, as well as in the United States, one from Canada, I don't know how they got involved, but some different Rotary groups have contacted us through the Rotary clubs in Honduras. And we've already put in 5 school libraries with Rotary that have reached 1,500 students and donated 2,800 books. And so we'd like to get you involved. So the reason I'm here, this is actually the first time I've approached a Rotary club instead of a Rotary club approaching me, so it's a little new. But my in-laws are all from this area, and my mother-in-law was part of your club back in the 80s. And so I got in contact with Brent, as my husband was in physical therapy. And so it's funny how these connections get made, but that is why I'm here today. And hoping that you'll help us sponsor a library for next year. So our plans for next year are to do an additional 10 libraries. And we've worked with some different donors to get funds for organizations like Rotary clubs matched. So if you would like to help sponsor a library, I am going to pass on some details to Brent about how to do that for next year. But we'd really like to get you involved and stay involved. I think it's great that I can be here and bring back some letters from the kids, which is what we always do, and some videos and different communication from that area. And we also do volunteer trips, so we think about that. And then this is just a quick blurb from a Rotary group that says some nice things about us, so you can see kind of their version of what Rotary Club looks like in Honduras. Nope, you can't. But they're saying really nice things. They're saying, Sara, she's the man, and she helps you. And you guys should participate too. You guys love this. Anyway, so that's their version. This is one of the Rotary clubs from Florida that put in a library, and they do several different projects and got involved with us several weeks ago. So definitely Edwardsville, you should get involved. I don't know what to tell y'all. So I'll pass on my information, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, but thank you so much for your time. It's really a pleasure to be here. Sure. My mother-in-law is Sherry Brakhane, so that Brakhane Road around, there's lots of Brakhanes. I've never seen so many cousins in my life. So I'm from California. I've got like 5 total. And Rotary, the library program can vary depending on the size. So I have a few different sizes available. They usually cost between $6,000 to $20,000, and that includes everything. And so we would match. So we would do half of that. I should speak into this so they can hear me. So we would do half of that. So anywhere from $6,000 to $20,000, and that would do all their trainings, all the decorations, all the paint, all the transportation of books. Our books are shipped from the US generally, or Colombia or Mexico, because there aren't books available in Honduras. And what else? Any questions about that budget? You guys are such a quiet group. There we go.
I know you can't solve all the problems for everyone in literacy in Honduras, but I do think because it's so kid focused, what about the parents?
Sure.
It has to have a similar problem with the parents as well. Literacy, what you mentioned before, the sort of videos involved, maybe those work with the parents, getting them up to speed.
Sure. What we know is that our efforts are best utilized when working with elementary school kids and preschool age kids. So we know that reading will make the most difference somewhere before 3rd grade, actually. And so our programs do focus on the place where it will make the most difference, even though a lot of our programs do take books home and can get parents involved. We don't focus on parents. But yeah, it's a great question.
You said that you would match whatever we donated. How did you fundraise?
No, we work with a lot of different organizations, a lot of individual donors, a lot of our volunteers are repeat donors. So we've gotten a few donors that have said it is okay to use their funds to match programs. And so that is how we get programs matched. Or depending on the size of your program, we might match you with another organization so that you're just not having to fund the whole thing. It kind of depends on what you want to do and what you're okay with doing. So we can talk about some different options depending on what you're able to do and what schools are available for kind of the price range. Because we have schools anywhere from 200 kids to 1,000 kids, and that's what would vary in that budget, depending on how many books we'd be donating and how many program supplies we'd be providing. So yeah, a lot of our funds come from organizations and personal donors, individual donors, yeah, 100% from that.
Since cocaine is one of the national products,
Traveling through, we don't make it. Okay.
do you teach the children any anti-drug?
We don't, honestly, a lot of the drugs don't stay, so that's not the problem. What we do is we teach about, there is some part of our books that talk about gang violence, that talk about immigration issues, because a lot of these kids are affected by the violence of the gangs because of the drugs, not necessarily the drugs themselves. And so that is why you'll have, like Honduras has been at the top of the list for sending kids that are unaccompanied to the US because the situation is desperate. Kids are in trouble, kids are not able to get to school. Some of our schools that we visit, we will call ahead of time and make sure that the local gang in charge has given us permission to enter. So that is the real issue. We do talk about some of that in our programs. But part of working against that is just giving kids better education. Remember that books help the imagination, it helps analyzation, it helps kids think of better options and know other options available to them. Because a lot of times you'll ask kids in these schools, what do you want to be when you grow up? Police, teacher, doctor. That's all I know, right? There aren't a lot of varying professions. There aren't a lot of options that they can think of. And so helping kids discover different options is how we work against that. Yeah. So our libraries put in 2 books per kid. And so that's what we found is kind of a good starting range. A lot of our libraries still work within our system, so we maintain our relationships where they can refill their books or increase their collections as they'd like. They can either apply for funding, or we will also match funds, subsidize books that they can buy from Chispa to help give them the responsibility of taking care of them and maintaining their own collection and the ability to choose what books they want. And so what was your question again? How many books? So our library collection will at least include 500 different titles, and it'll be 2 books per kid. But here in the US, on average, a library will have up to 20 books per user. So you can see kind of the difference in what we're talking about, but we still believe that our collections are sufficient for the size and the newness of just having books. Yeah.
Any other questions for Sarah? Sarah, did you get used books as well?
So all our books are in Spanish, and we don't accept used books at this point because we want to make sure the kids get the feeling of that new book. And so most of the books we do buy subsidized from some of our partners. So we work with Scholastic and different nonprofits to help get our books at about half price. They cost about $6 a book, and that's an average of hardcover, softcover, chapter books, but just in Spanish. Thank you so much, everyone.